Hello, I'm Lauren Cohen, and I'm the Associate Director of Government Relations for the National Trust for Historic Preservation. This video is part of a series that provides guidance to those advocating on behalf of historic preservation. There are so many ways to advocate, from writing an op-ed in your local paper to producing or disseminating research that helps make your case. This video focuses on engaging with elected officials and other decision makers in meaningful ways. These tips can apply to building relationships with elected officials or decision makers at the federal, state, local, and even hyperlocal level. Whether you're speaking with one of your U.S. senators or members of your town council, knowing how to advocate for your preservation program or priorities can make an impact. Now, let's dive into a simple formula for what advocacy really is. So, having compelling data plus effective storytelling and a clear ask yields advocacy for policy change. Now, I'm not saying that this formula gets you a yes every single time, but I will say that this formula has been proven to be impactful in organizing your thoughts and streamlining your advocacy in a very clear way. So, having that compelling data makes you a trusted and reliable source to these decision makers. They know that you're telling them the truth when you share compelling data. Having effective stories about why this preservation program or priority matters to you and your community can be really impactful. These decision makers have chosen to be in a position to work for their communities that they serve. And so telling stories about how this preservation priority impacts these communities can be really, really helpful for your advocacy. Now, please do not forget to have a clear and concise ask. That ask could be for additional funding, but it's not always about funding. Sometimes it's about thinking about different zoning laws or something like that. But make sure that you have a clear and concise ask for this decision maker. Don't leave a meeting or an interaction without making it very, very clear what you're seeking. Sometimes seeking just a general support is what the ask is. So make sure you have an ask every single time you're interacting with a decision maker. Now, there are a couple tips for building relationships, and that's what we're really doing is building relationships with these decision makers. This is not just a one-time interaction that you're trying to have with decision makers across the board. You're building a relationship with them and your staff. So know who represents you. At the federal level, if you're not really sure who represents you in the US House or US Senate, you can go to house.gov and type in your zip code, or senate.gov and select your state, and you can find out who represents you very easily. Knowing who represents you is incredibly important because they, especially at the federal level, they serve on various committees, state level as well. These state leaders serve on various committees. So knowing the ways that they work and how their work can directly impact the asks that you have is really important. Also, get to know their staff. Uh, Relationships with staff cannot be understated. These staff are the ones that you're going to be communicating with most often. If you have the email address of a dedicated staffer working with that decision maker, you're going to be able to update them on your work and your priorities more often than directly the decision maker themselves. So get to know their staff. Also, leverage grass tops connections. If you are a nonprofit, this could be you're asking your board to get involved, getting to know these decision makers. Perhaps they already have relationships with these decision makers. So think about leveraging grass tops connections. Think about the connections that people in your orbit already have with the decision makers you're trying to reach. And also be very prepared with your advocacy message. Remember that formula I talked about, having good data, a really nice and impactful story, and then that all important advocacy act. So come prepared with that advocacy message. A couple of do's and don'ts here. Do be prepared, polite, and persistent. Also, be likable and credible. This seems really obvious, but you could go into a meeting and be really, really likable, but you may not have good data, or you may not be able to answer even basic questions about your ask. So being likable is one thing, but you've got to be credible too. You also could go into a meeting and have all the answers and have all of the data available, but maybe you're not very likable in that meeting. Being likable and credible is a winning combination for advocacy. Also, have an agenda and know who on your team is speaking on each point. If you're going into a meeting with two or three other individuals, maybe from your organization, make sure that each person has a speaking part in this meeting. Maybe designate one person to share the data. One person maybe can share that really compelling story, and then one person can come in with that important ask at the end. So have an agenda, plan that out before you go into the meeting with the decision maker. Also, get involved. Follow these decision makers, whether they be members of Congress, your mayor, your governor, state senators. Follow them on social media. Sign up for their newsletters. A lot of these folks have weekly or monthly newsletters that they send out. Sign up for those newsletters. And when you meet with these decision makers, if you have a newsletter, encourage them or their staff to sign up for your newsletter so that they can stay up on the events that you're planning, the work that you're doing, and you can stay connected in that way. That shows that you want to build this relationship over time. And also remember to always say thank you. Sometimes meetings don't go as well as you want them to go. Perhaps they are unable to fulfill the ask that you have right at that moment, but always say thank you for the time and show them that you are looking to build this relationship and you're going to come back with more information so that hopefully they can join you in being a partner with you. Some things not to do: don't lie or overstate facts. When I say to be likable and credible, being credible doesn't mean you have to have every single answer all the time. We're never going to have every single answer in all the meetings that we attend with decision makers, but never overstate facts or lie. If you don't know the answer, just say that you're going to get back with them. It's as easy as that. Also, I've said this before, don't overlook those staff members. Building relationships with staff is going to be really, really valuable to you over time. You're going to be able to interact with them more often than the decision maker themselves, usually. And you're going to be able to send them emails, share updates with them. So don't overlook those staff members. Also, don't lose focus in meetings. There are so many things that you could be talking to decision makers about, but don't lose focus about the thing that you want to talk about relating to preservation priorities. Always bring the conversation back to the issue at hand. Don't lose focus about what you're there to talk with them about. Sometimes you only have 20 minutes or so. So make that time count for the issue that you've come to talk about. Also, don't become discouraged. Again, sometimes these meetings don't yield the results that we're looking for. But again, we are building relationships with these decision makers. So over time, hopefully they will become champions or supportive of the work that you are doing in the preservation field. So don't become discouraged. Now, before the meeting or the visit with the decision maker, work with the scheduler and district director. This is especially impactful at the federal level. US senators and members in the US House have schedulers that work in Washington, D.C., and often back home in the state or district. So work with those schedulers and district directors to find a time that works best for that decision maker and for you and your organization when you're trying to plan a meeting. Also be flexible. A lot of times decision makers at any level have crazy schedules. They may need you to be flexible with changing a time last minute. So just be flexible. Also, follow up with the names and affiliations of all of the individuals who are going to attend this meeting. Good staff are always going to do research about folks who their boss is meeting with. So just provide those names and affiliations of all the folks who are going to be in the meeting with you. That's going to be really, really helpful for the staff. Work with the communications director and press secretary. This is a wonderful thing to pair with the next point, which is to sign up for those office communications and social media. If you're working with the communications director or press secretary or social media manager for this decision maker, it's going to be really easy to share photos that you've taken before the meeting or during the meeting. You're going to be able to share statements maybe with that communications director that they can put on their newsletters or something like that. So build a relationship with those folks as well, so you can amplify the work that you're doing and amplify the meeting that you're having with this decision maker. Also, do your homework. Make sure that you know the committees that this decision maker serves on. Make sure you know that the past work that this decision maker has done for preservation in the preservation field, any interest this decision maker or their staff has in history or preservation or something related is going to be really helpful for you to make this meeting go smoothly. During the meeting, take photos, use social media. Maybe don't be on social media while you're in the meeting, but be sure to take those photos during the meeting so you can share them later. You can share them on your organization's social media channels, and you can share them with the decision makers' staff as well so that they can share photos from the meeting as well. Again, tell authentic stories. Don't go on and on with these stories, but make sure that they're concise and impactful stories about how preservation is serving the community that you're in and the communities that these decision makers represent. Use reliable data and make that advocacy ask. One thing I want to emphasize here too is don't stop until you get some kind of yes answer. And I mean that you're going to have an initial ask, that initial advocacy ask. Perhaps that's to become a co-sponsor on a piece of legislation that's going to be really helpful for preservation priorities. You may ask the decision maker or their staff if they could become a co-sponsor on this legislation, and perhaps they may say no. Or they may give you an answer that would say, not at this time. I don't think we can become a co-sponsor. All right, that's okay. Don't end the meeting there, though. Continue to ask, how can we stay engaged with you? Is there a way that perhaps we could schedule a site visit next time you're home in the state or in the district? Would it be okay if we do that? You might get a yes to that. If you don't get a yes to that question, then just say, would it be okay with you if we just stay in touch and I email you in a month or so to let you know how this project is progressing in our community? You're probably going to get a yes to that. If you end the meeting on some kind of positive note with the office able to say yes to something, it's going to help you build that relationship in a positive way. It's going to help the office feel like they were able to say yes to something to you, but it's also going to show them that you're persistent, that you want to build this relationship, and that you want them to come along with you to become a champion for preservation priorities. After the meeting or visit, of course, always send a thank you note. You've probably been working with staffers to make this meeting happen. Send a nice thank you note to the scheduler for fitting you into their boss's busy schedule. If you're able to, send a thank you note to the decision maker as well. Follow up with materials or photos taken during the visit. Sometimes in meetings you can go in with a clear plan of what you're going to talk about, but you may be able to find as the meeting goes on that you think of a different story or a different data set or something that comes up during the meeting that maybe you don't have materials for right then. You're going to be able to follow up with those materials after the visit. Send a one pager or send a video clip of something that you talked about during that meeting. Keep staff up to date on activities that are happening with your preservation organization or your priorities. And then also check in to see if they've taken action on your advocacy goals. If you were able to get a yes out of this office from this meeting, follow up to see if they were able to become a co-sponsor, if they were able to sign on to that letter, or check in to see if this is a good time for you to follow up with more information about this piece of legislation or this priority. Now, I hope this video has been helpful for you as you think about building relationships with decision makers at the federal, state, local, and even hyperlocal level. These tips and tricks can be used to build those relationships over time so that you're able to advance your preservation priorities. Thank you so much.